Washington, President Truman gets issues of a new 3-cent stamp honoring our servicewomen and presents sheets of the stamps to service representatives. An album of the new issue goes to WAC Director Colonel Mary A. Halloran. Our women flyers, the WAFs, also get an album, which is accepted by Colonel Mary J. Shelley. The Waves come next. Captain Joy B. Hancock is their representative. The Marines album is accepted by Colonel Catherine A. Toll. Mr. Truman tells the representatives of the servicewomen honored on these stamps that we need more young ladies like them.
President Truman, continuing his cross-country whistle-stopping tour for Stevenson, introduces daughter Margaret at Colorado Springs, Colorado, to a train-side turnout. Then he rips into General Eisenhower for urging the election of all Republican candidates.
Finally, the Republican candidate has betrayed his principles by publicly endorsing every Republican candidate in the country, regardless of whether that man is the blackest of reactionaries, a diehard isolationist, or even a moral scoundrel. I hope you will understand why, although I once thought the general would make a good president, that I'm now convinced that I was absolutely wrong. And I hope you will think also about these very important reasons when you vote on November the 4th. Thank you.
In Washington, during the Theater Owners of America convention, ex-President Mitchell Wolfson congratulates Alfred Starr, his successor, as the TOA wives visit the home of another president, Harry S. Truman. On the White House grounds, the ladies are conducted on an inspection tour by a qualified guide who enjoys the job, and he proves it by mixing in with the crowd. President Truman takes to the road to stump for a continuation of Democratic policies on a tour that brings him from Montana down through the West Coast to California. Crowds turn out everywhere to see the president, who also draws the usual compliment of small boys. In San Francisco, Mr. Truman says Eisenhower is a captive of old guard Republicans.
Stumpton Truman, Taft's longtime opponent, speaking before the National Conference on Citizenship, assails the use of what he terms communist-like tactics by some people in this country.
Unfortunately, there is a tendency in this country today to resort to the use of the big lie in order to reap personal and partisan advantage. It's a big lie, for example, to say that we tolerate communists and other disloyal persons in our government. Partisan feeling often runs high in election campaigns. That is understandable, but it should not lead us to permit the use of this dangerous communist technique in American politics.
President Truman, continuing his vigorous campaigning for Adlai Stevenson, tours New Jersey and Pennsylvania. The Republicans are peddling poison, he charges, in accusing his administration of softness toward communism. In New York City, General Dwight Eisenhower visits Harlem, heart of the nation's largest Negro district, where he pledges an effective civil rights program. The general is greeted by John Roosevelt, FDR's youngest son. Earlier in Detroit, he promises that if elected president, his administration will, as he says, seek an early and honorable end to the Korean War.
Now, where will a new administration begin? It will begin with its president taking a firm, simple resolution. That resolution will be to forego the diversions of politics and to concentrate on the job of ending the Korean War. That job requires a personal trip to Korea. Only in that way could I learn how best to serve the American people in the cause of peace. I shall go to Korea.
President Truman awards the nation's highest honor to 3 Marine Corps heroes of the valiant Chosin Reservoir fighting in Korea. Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Davis saved an entire rifle company from annihilation. Tech Sergeant Robert Kennemore lost both legs in preventing a grenade from killing his buddies. Private First Class Hector Caparata waged a one-man battle to stop an enemy breakthrough. To these men and their comrades in arms, America will always be grateful.
President Truman and Governor Stevenson, who flew on to Washington from the CIO convention for a 2-day White House visit, meet for the first time since the election. Stevenson says he has come to discuss the future of the Democratic Party and attend a farewell dinner with outgoing administration officials.
The coming year-long celebration of aviation's 50th anniversary is ushered in as President Truman presents John Stack with the Collier Trophy. Major General Lucas Bowe, commander of the Civil Air Patrol, receives the Brewer Trophy at this Wright Memorial Dinner in Washington. The final award goes to another general, Lieutenant General Jimmy Doolittle, chairman of the Celebration Committee, who accepts the Wright Memorial Trophy. The president calls for more air power to safeguard peace.
We are throwing our energies into military aviation because we want to prevent war. We are developing new techniques and new weapons in the hope that they will never have to be used. Our aim is peace. We must never, never forget that.
At Washington National Airport, there is a warm personal welcome from President Truman awaiting Secretary of State Acheson, returning from his last big international conference, the North Atlantic Council meeting in Paris. After almost 4 years in office, Acheson prepares to step down. Leaving in Washington, outgoing President Truman holds his last formal meeting with the members of his cabinet. With the Republican administration preparing to take over the reins of government, the conference between the chief executive and his circle of top-level advisors is brief. It concludes with a traditional presentation to the president. State Secretary Acheson, on behalf of the cabinet, presents Mr. Truman with a big leather chair he occupied during his fateful years in the White House.
President Harry S. Truman, on the eve of his return to private life after almost 8 years in office, comes before the American people to say goodbye.
In speaking to you tonight, I have no new revelations to make, no political statements, no policy announcements. I want to talk with you a little about what has happened since I became your president.
Even as the president speaks, the packing of his valuables continues. The most important decision in his time as president, Mr. Truman says, was to send American boys into battle in Korea. The issue, he explains, was whether there would be fighting in a limited area now or on a much